All right, let's just jump right in. We're going to look at what is probably one of the most familiar stories in the entire world, the creation story from Genesis. And we're going to explore a really fascinating idea, that there might be a secret code, a numerical pattern woven right into the original Hebrew text. I mean, we all know the story, right? In 6 days, God creates everything. The heavens, the earth, light, dark, land, sea, all the plants and animals, and then, of course, humankind. And on that 7th day, God rests. It's a story that feels very structured, very clear. But what if that simple 6-day structure isn't the only pattern at play? What if there's something else, a deeper mathematical layer hidden inside the text that most of us have just never seen before? Well, that's the big question we're digging into. Now, this idea of looking for literary patterns in Genesis 1, it's not some crazy new thing. Scholars have known for a long time that the author uses a bunch of different structures to get theological ideas across. That 6-day framework, it's really just the most obvious one. For instance, people have pointed out the 7 times it says things are good, with that last one being very good. Or how the phrase, "and God said," shows up exactly 10 times, which might be a little nod to the 10 Commandments. There's also this really cool parallelism where days 1, 2, and 3, the days of forming things, are perfectly mirrored by days 4, 5, and 6, the days of filling them. So the point is, this is already a very structured piece of writing. So that brings us to the main theory we're looking at today. And this one isn't about repeating phrases or themes. No, this is about something much more concrete. The actual number of Hebrew words the author used to describe the days of creation. If you actually count the words in the original Hebrew, something pretty incredible seems to pop out. And it's all based on the number 69. Look at this. The first 2 days combined, they use exactly 69 words. The next 2 days, double that, 138 words. And the last 2 days, you guessed it, triple, 207 words. It's this perfect 1, 2, 3 progression. It looks totally intentional. But, and this is a big but, there's a catch. A huge one, actually. This absolutely perfect numerical pattern, well, it doesn't quite work with the standard Hebrew text that we use today. The whole thing, all those perfect multiples of 69, that beautiful symmetry, it all hangs by a thread. The numbers are off. That's right. For this whole elegant structure to actually be true, the text needs just one more word than it currently has in the standard version of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 28. It's off by 1. And here's the word uvabehema. It means "and over the livestock." Now, this isn't just someone pulling a word out of thin air to make the math work. While it's missing from the main Hebrew manuscript we rely on, this word does show up in other very old versions of the text, like the Syriac and Greek translations of the Hebrew Bible. So there's a legitimate historical reason to think it might have been there originally. Okay, so let's just do a little thought experiment. Let's pretend for a minute that the word uvabehema was originally in the text. What happens if we put it back in? Well, this is where things get really interesting. Adding that single word doesn't just fix the first pattern, it actually unlocks a bunch of others. So with that one word added, a brand new pattern of symmetry just snaps into place. In the first half of the week, the word count for days 1 and 2 put together is 69, which is the exact same word count as day 3 all by itself. And then look at the whole week. The word count for the first 4 days is 207, which is the exact same as the last 2 days. Suddenly, with that one word, the balance is absolutely perfect. But it doesn't stop there. The second half of the week now has exactly double the words of the first half, 276 versus 138. And this doubling thing is even reflected in what's being created. There are 5 parts of the world named in the first half and exactly 10 types of things created to fill them in the second half. It's like every layer you peel back reveals another layer of intentional design. So adding this one word creates 3 different interlocking mathematical patterns. But here is the part that might just break your brain. It's what scholar Craig Robinson calls highly improbable to just be a coincidence. Get this. If you put that missing word uvabehema back into the text where it would go, and then you count the words backwards from the very end of day 6, that word is the 69th word. I'm going to say that again. In a massive pattern based on 6 blocks of 69 words, the one word you need to make it all work is itself the first word of the final block of 69. The odds of that are just staggering. So you have to ask, could the author really have been that precise? Well, there's other evidence that they were paying super close attention to numbers. The Hebrew word for God, Elohim, appears 35 times. That's 5 times 7. The word for land, Eretz, appears 21 times. That's 3 times 7. And the description of the 7th day of rest, it's exactly 35 words long. So the number 7 is clearly a huge intentional part of the structure. So let's say this pattern of 69s is real and it's intentional. What on earth could it mean? I mean, why that number? Well, according to the source for all this, the answer might not even be in Genesis. It might be in a totally different book of the Bible, the book of Daniel. Okay, check this out. It's like a tale of 2 weeks. Genesis 1 is all about the first week of history, right? And it seems to be structured around 6 days, which our pattern shows as 6 sections of 69 words. Well, a famous prophecy in the book of Daniel describes the timeline leading up to the last week of history. And how long is that timeline? It's 69 sevens of years. So you have Genesis with 69 sixes before the first rest, and Daniel with 69 sevens before the final week. The idea is that this is a deliberate theological connection between the beginning and the end. And this idea isn't just floating out there on its own. The source argues that Genesis 1 is just packed with these little hints pointing towards the end. You know, the phrase "in the beginning" naturally makes you think about an end of days. And things like darkness and the seas from the creation story are specifically called out as being gone in the Bible's final vision of a new creation. The whole theory suggests that Genesis 1 was written from the get-go with the end of the story in mind. So where does all this leave us? We've got this series of incredibly intricate, interlocking patterns that all just click into place perfectly if you add one single word. And it's a word that actually has some ancient textual evidence supporting it. It really boils down to 3 possibilities. Option 1, this is all just one of the most remarkable coincidences in literary history. Option 2, the word was originally there, the pattern was perfect, and some scribe just accidentally dropped it somewhere along the way. Or option 3, and this is the most mind-bending idea. What if the author intentionally left the word out, creating a flawed pattern on purpose as a kind of puzzle for future readers to solve? And that right there leads us to the final big question. If it is an intentional puzzle, why? What's the point? Could it be that the act of finding the flaw, hunting for the missing piece, and then discovering all these hidden mathematical and theological connections, could that have been the author's real goal all along? It suggests that from the very first page of the Bible, the story of creation might hold a secret code that points all the way to its final chapter.